Alright. This is actually take two of trying to make this video. Uh, I realized like halfway through the first try that the little light on my microphone that shows when it's being utilized was not actually blinking, which meant that it was muted. So, yeah, that was fun. So, take two of this video. Uh, a little bit of an introduction of me first and foremost because this is my first public video with commentary. I am Destroyer Zeka, otherwise better known as just Zeka, and I've been playing World of Warships since about mid 2016 is when I started, and I've been playing destroyers more or less exclusively since about 2017. I have played in multiple high Typhoon and Hurricane level clan battles. I have played in Round of 16 King of the Sea and placed in multiple top 8 teams. And I have played for other more casual teams at a high Storm, low Typhoon level. So that's just a little bit of my background as to who I am and how much experience I have, and it's kind of like one of those like little credentials sort of thing. I'm not really very well known, so you know, it's like when you have a broken pipe, you're not gonna call like a wedding planner to come fix it. You're going to call a an actual plumber who knows what they're talking about. And that's basically what I was kind of doing there with the credentials. But anyway, that aside, what I want to talk about right now is, in this particular video, is win conditions and how to read them and recognize them and how they impact your decision making throughout the game. So, first things first, looking at the matchmaking, threats to my ship, there's an enemy Kaga. There's a Baltimore for radar. Miyoko can be annoying with its HE if it gets a shot. There's one of those fancy Italian destroyers with a weird ass name, and a Mahan. Rounding out the threats to my ship, the map is Northern Lights. This is 4-cap domination, and we are going to jump right into this replay. And this is a replay that was recorded in post. I don't tend to record live games, although if I continue to make videos, which I plan to do, is if anyone watching this wants to see live gameplay or live games and then commentated in post, which I mean, this technically is. It's being commentated in post, but whatever. But if anyone wants to watch live games, then let me know and I'll consider making those. But for right now, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to be sticking to this sort of record as I go and then make a commentary on it after the fact. That's the format I'm thinking of sticking to right now. So, this game is kind of a it starts off really well, and then it kind of takes a nosedive towards the end of it. And that's where I kind of get into win conditions and how to recognize them and how they impact your decision making. Because certain decisions in this game ends up saving it, basically, because I was talking with my div mate in the Kaga there, and we were talking about like, hey, to win this game we need to do this sort of thing. So I'll get into that into more detail later. But for right now, what I want to talk about is what I'm doing right here is something I don't generally recommend you do in any destroyer, especially not on this map where the cap circles are this small. You can see my 5.8 kilometer detection goes pretty significantly past the bottom edge of the cap circle. So not even two Kagaros, which are the stealthiest destroyers in the game, are going to be able to share this cap circle without detecting each other. But since I had my CV do a little bit of spotting for me, and I knew there was nothing here, and they only have one radar who was spotted turning outwards. I know I have the opening in order to take this cap. But if I didn't have these things going in my favor, then I definitely urge anyone to consider backing into the cap if you plan to contest it. Another thing I want to mention is that this is only a 2-destroyer game, as opposed to like the 4 or 5 that you generally typically see in random battles in today's meta. It's usually like 4 destroyers and 2 submarines per side, or 1 or 2 submarines per side. So, but this is one of those rare games that's very cruiser and battleship heavy. So normally what I would do is if I spawned like right towards here, I don't know if OBS is capturing my cursor, but right in between the 4 and 5 line, that line, I would probably be looking, if I spawned around there, I would be looking to kind of hang around the tip of that island where those planes are just coming off of. I would be looking to hang out in that channel and get spots on anything that's moving by, moving towards that side from the middle spawn. But since I have a carrier who's doing that spotting for me, and I was one of the only destroyers in the game, then that's why I did what I did. So, like I said, I do not recommend doing that right there unless you have a lot of stuff going in your favor like I did there. I highly recommend you just make a habit of reversing into caps in general, or reversing into any areas that you expect or you have something that's going to try and bite your toe off when you dip it in the water. What I'm looking at right now is this side. I'm going to pause it right here. So there's a smoke screen somewhere around ahead of these guys. So that immediately tells me that that's where whatever that other destroyer is. That's roughly where he is. And there's just a clusterfuck of ships pushing up here. There's an Azir, a Fat Freddy, an Iowa, a D7, one of those Caracciolo's or whatever it's pronounced, a Baltimore, and as it turns out later, there's Kaga Focus as well here. So what I'm looking at in this map is these ships, these three ships, the Palmer, Nagato, and Chapayev, they are not going to be able to hold ground against this lot here because they have destroyer support. The enemy team has the destroyer on this side, and that's providing spotting, that's providing vision, capping power, and because of that, and because of the fact that my team does not have a consistent way to spot it outside of the Chapayev's radar, this side is in very rough shape of collapsing. So what I'm looking at doing right now is I want to keep this destroyer off of ACAP as long as I possibly can, and I want to stall this push to give my team time to kite out to a safer distance and to stop them from ticking on ACAP, because we have 3 caps right now, so the longer we can retain control of it is the more points that we're going to build up later. So that's kind of my thought process right now, is I want to kill this destroyer if possible, but if it's not possible, I want to stall for as long as possible. Nagato and Palmer are both pretty healthy at the moment. That's not going to remain the case, though. And I do end up spotting the destroyer. I do pop smoke here because my Chapayev radars the destroyer, which gives me time to shoot at him. And I don't want to take unnecessary damage. Never mind my terrible aim. Always fun dealing with US shell arcs. It's unfortunate that I didn't get more damage on that guy there, but our Nagato is definitely misplaying by turning in like this. That is not a very good position to be in. He definitely needed to be kiting out, so that's always fun. Fat Freddy's starting to push in, so I switch my fire to him. I do actually make a mistake here. I do end up leaving my AA on longer than I should, just because I was so focused on trying to farm down the Fat Freddy a little bit. And what you're about to see in a few seconds here is a classic example of why you always have to have your AA off. Not for one thing, with the current meta having submarines and all these ships having ASW, people love to drop said ASW on just bits of open ocean where they think there's a destroyer at. And right here, my AA gives me away right there, which is not ideal, but whatever. I don't end up taking much in the way of damage for it. Although I do open up because I don't want this guy capping. And I do have my heal available to kind of compensate for damage that I'm taking during this engagement. And you're going to see I'm about to pop it right here. And basically what that's doing is it's effectively increasing my effective health during the duration of the gunfight, or at very least the duration of the heal, which most gunfights don't typically last 30 seconds as far as destroyer on destroyer gunfights go. So it is circumventing a little bit of the damage that I'm taking from the Fat Freddy secondaries, although I am taking a little bit more damage than I'd like here, so as soon as my smoke comes up, I'm going to pop it. Yeah, that was a unfun hit. I am looking to kill this Fat Freddy here. You have to be careful to not veer out of your smoke. I'm going to pause it again right here because I kind of want to explain my thought process right now, what's going through my head at this moment. So right now, I'm being presented with two choices. I can either turn out towards where this fighter is and push towards decap to kind of be parallel with the direction that these battleships are pushing. And if I was in something like a Kagero or even an Asashio or a Yu Yang or just any torpedo boat for that matter, I would be considering turning out and trying to torpedo these guys as they push towards sea, because they're wanting to either do one of two things. They're either wanting to chase down my surviving ships right here, or they're wanting to turn towards sea to capture that. So if I'm in a torpedo boat, my best play is to try and be in a position where in order to do what they want to do, they have to go through me first. They have to push through a section where I can flood it with torpedoes, or I can just outright nuke one of them if I'm given the opportunity and the range is close enough. But since Kid is not really a bleeding destroyer, so to speak, it can't really bleed a push by itself. What I want to do is I want to, as soon as these guys commit towards doing whatever action that they choose to do, I want to double back and step right back on ACAP after these guys all fuck off. Because what that's going to do is that's going to either force them to split to deal with me and fizzle out their push, or they're just going to keep on pushing as one massive force, and I'll be able to just step on the cap right after them, right after they leave, and undo all of their hard work. So right now, my thought process is I want to apply pressure on A, and I want to force these guys to split off, split their forces to deal with me, or they just push right on through, and I'll just back cap from underneath them. Killing that destroyer would also be ideal. Now I do pick up RPF here. That's telling me that whatever ship is running that has not yet committed. Well, actually no, I think that RPF was on the Vladivostok before, and as soon as he died it switched to me. So, yeah. And I do get radared here, which does, well, obviously it's the Baltimore. But that's a video I also am going to make at a future date, is kind of reading RPF and using it against an enemy. In this particular game, it doesn't really play that big of a factor, because I actually wasn't really paying attention to it, but because I was kind of worried about other things at the moment, like choosing to step towards A. But anyway, that's a video for a future date, basically. I'm going to make a video on RPF and how to use it against an enemy that has it. This is not a very good example of that, just because I'm pretty much the only ship on this side. So any of these guys who are running it, if any of this lot's running it, it's probably pointing towards me. So it doesn't really give me a ton of info. And I do consider not stepping on the cap here to not alert this Kaga of my presence. But you can see he's accelerating. He knows I'm here. So I just decide, fuck it. I'm just going to step on the cap. He knows he's spotted. He knows I'm here anyway. So launch out some predictive torps. And I switch to the armor piercing here. You know, a lot of people kind of sleep on the armor piercing shells of destroyers, and especially like US destroyers. Those armor piercing are nasty. I do actually kind of not really misplay, but I do make a little mistake of not enabling my priority sector. But I mean, just look at the armor piercing, look at that damage. I'm just gonna let the damage speak for itself. And this is another like little note that I've made in several replays before. If you're in a ship that has Def AA, use your Def AA before you use your priority sector, because that Def AA is boosting your damage, and because your priority sector is a percentage, the Def AA boosting the base damage numbers to 3 or 4 times or whatever it is. Using your DFAA to boost your damage numbers, and then using your exponential, your percentage based anti-aircraft ability, you can get a little bit more damage out of your AA that way. And this is just a by the way note. When you are dealing with your Def AA in a destroyer, you can turn your AA off early during the cooldown, like while the consumable is still active, and it'll immediately end the consumable. So the cooldown will start sooner, and you'll get it back sooner. And I don't want to pop my heal or my DCP here because there's still bombers in the air. Because I don't want to get stuck with a permafire, a broken engine that I can't repair. Nice drop. You're about to see right here. Turned off my AA and it ended my defensive fire 15 seconds early. So now effectively, I'll have it back up again 15 seconds earlier, which isn't going to play a significant role in this particular battle, but it is just something to keep in mind when you're playing ships like Kidd, Holland, even like a fucking Gearing or Fletcher if you're running that with Def AA. The 7 should be going down pretty soon here. I believe in the next couple of seconds he should be. And the Endrat's about to trade with the D7 because there's an Iowa and Baltimore over there. So now this is kind of the point where I'm looking at this map and I'm thinking, okay, we are about to be down 3 caps and there's an Iowa and a Baltimore walking at my carrier. So what I'm being faced with is, what do I need to do in order to win this game? And there's not enough time at this instant for us to win by points. So these caps, or at least this cap B, is irrelevant. It's just too far away and there's not enough time for that to be a viable option. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be stepping towards C here, because now that these guys have 3 caps, they're ticking points faster than we are. So what I need to do is I need to get on C cap right here to equalize the points incomes for both teams. So both teams will be gaining points at an even rate, and the enemy team's not going to be climbing further and further and farther ahead, because we are behind on points now. So even if I cap C and then somehow get one of these 2 caps, there's not enough time for that to make up the points difference. So I know that in order to win this game, me and my divmate are talking, and we have to kill one or both of these targets to win. And right now, that candidate is about to be the Baltimore. So my carrier knows that he must stay alive, because if he goes down, it's done. In order for us to win, if he dies, then I have to not only have the capture points, but I'll also probably have to kill both of them. And that's not an easy feat to do in a Kidd killing an Iowa, at least not by yourself in any speedy length of time, unless you like YOLO or land torps on him, which isn't likely because Kidd's not really known for its torpedo power. And this capture point ends up being critical later in the match, and I'll explain that more when it comes. So right now you're seeing in the chat an example of a person who doesn't really understand the concept of win conditions. They're looking at this and all they see is, oh, caps are open, go take it, we win. But honestly, that's not an option. There's just not enough time. And our carrier is going around the border on the A line to goad these guys into turning towards the 5-6 line, thinking that's where our carrier is. And that's doing 2 things. That's both getting them to turn away from where he actually is, and it's goading them to turn towards me. And I know that I have to kill at least one of these guys to win. My Kaga knows that he has to kill at least one of these guys to win. So right now, I'm telling my Kaga, hey, can you kill the Baltimore and I'll start working over the Iowa? And he says yes, so I just start working over the Iowa here, and there's some spice going on in the chat right there you're about to see. And like I said, this is kind of one of those things that he doesn't understand that there's not enough time to win on points, but because if he was in my shoes, he would be headed towards D, which there's just not enough time to make up the points. I'm mainly trying to knock out anti-aircraft guns on this Iowa right here, but my Kaga says like, hey, I'm having a hard time dealing with this Baltimore, I'm going to need you to help him. Or I'm going to need you to help me. Damn, it's so weird talking about like fucking like third person or whatever. Is that third person or first, second, third, whatever. Anyway, he says like basically you need to shoot at the Baltimore because I'm not going to be able to kill him because these guys are sticking together like an intelligent pair of I don't know, monkeys. Here's the USN shell arcs kind of giving me a hard time right here. Those are always fun. The penny finally dropped for the Leon over there, so better late than never, I guess. And now I'm just waiting for my Kaga to try and spot this guy for me. He's trying to obviously kill him, but I also need to kill him as well. I do land a couple of shells here, although they do shatter, which is a little unfortunate. But back to the subject of capping C, because I took C, both teams, I'm just going to pause it right here so I can explain it. Both teams are bringing in points at an even rate because both teams control 2 caps. If I just went from A and then just hauled ass and headed towards these 2 ships to try and kill it, they would honestly probably have already won by now. They would probably be at like 950, if not more. And because that they're not taking up a points lead over time, the fact that if we kill one of these ships, all we have to do is switch the points in our favor, which killing either of these guys is enough to do, because both teams are ticking in an even amount of points, and that's how C ended up being a critical component to winning this match. So, like I explained earlier, when I was headed towards there, I know that in order to win this game, we have to kill one or both of these guys, and capping C made it so we only had to kill one of them instead of both of them in order to win. And it basically, spending that extra minute in the cap to capture it saved us not only a loss, but if we had more time, it saved us more work in the future. So that's how C ended up being very important. This Baltimore ends up shooting. And I immediately pop my smoke here just to fall dark, but the Iowa ends up leaving my gun range, so it ends up I end up falling off anyway. But This is just kind of a game that I think really aptly demonstrates win conditions and how to recognize them and how you need to play in order to meet your win condition. So I hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, let me know in the comments or on Discord. Oh damn, I'm fucking like ending this like it's a replay review for someone. Anyway, any questions, comments, concerns, video ideas, video requests, just let me know either in the comments or on Discord, and I'll see anyone who watches in the next video, whenever that might end up being.